Have you ever wondered why the greatest minds in history are often considered loners? In reality, there is a deeply misunderstood truth. The smartest people aren't antisocial. Rather, their brains are running a high-level operating system that ordinary people find hard to comprehend. A 75-year study by Harvard University indicates that highly cognitive individuals spend 47% more time alone than the average person. This solitude is not a punishment, but rather a secret weapon for them to maintain absolute intellectual superiority. So why is loneliness the price of genius, and how can one turn stillness into breakthrough power? Are you squandering your precious intellectual resources on meaningless social interactions, or do you know how to disconnect to elevate yourself? Watch this video to the end to decode the thinking strategies of exceptional people. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the Ngui Key Fact channel so we can continue bringing you more meaningful content. There exists a deeply misunderstood truth in this world. The smartest people often appear to be the loneliest. It's not because they are antisocial, but because their brains are running a complex program that the average person completely fails to understand. The 75-year Harvard study of adult development reveals that the high cognitive group spends 47% more time in internal monologue than the average. This solitary journey is precisely the secret that helps them maintain their intellectual edge. Today, you will thoroughly understand why truly intelligent people prefer to be alone, thereby grasping the thinking model of high cognitive individuals. This will give you a brand new perspective on solitude and help you avoid wasting precious cognitive resources on blind socializing. Imagine how wonderful it would be if you could, like Einstein, give birth to the theory of relativity in stillness, or like Newton, discover the law of universal gravitation during a period of isolation. This seemingly antisocial behavior is actually the most exquisite cognitive optimization strategy in the history of human evolution. But to understand that, we must first decode how the brain processes information. Our brain is essentially a processor with limited bandwidth. This discovery comes from the prospect theory of Nobel laureate Professor Daniel Kahneman. Everyone's daily cognitive resources are limited, much like a phone battery. Every bit used leaves less behind. High cognitive individuals understand this best. Their brains are like high-performance computers running complex programs that require massive amounts of RAM. Meanwhile, social interactions, especially meaningless small talk, are like opening dozens of browser tabs simultaneously, with each tab eroding cognitive resources. Research from the University of California indicates that after a typical social gathering, high IQ individuals need an average of 2.3 hours of solitude to restore their cognitive functions. This is not a weakness but a physiological necessity. When processing social information, their neural networks operate much more complexly and consume far more energy than those of the average person. This is akin to forcing a Formula One race car to drive through urban traffic congestion. It's not that the car is faulty, but rather the environment is incompatible. High cognitive brains are optimized to solve complex problems, not for small talk. They don't hate socializing, they simply understand too well how to calculate the return on investment from it. Every social interaction is a cognitive investment, and they are only willing to invest in relationships that bring true value. From an evolutionary perspective, the preference for solitude among intelligent people is a superpower. British psychologist Satoshi Kanazawa proposed the Savannah-Ike interaction hypothesis, explaining why intelligent people may seem ill-suited for modern society. In primitive societies, humans primarily faced survival issues like finding food or avoiding danger, but the genius brain evolved to solve more abstract problems. This creates an evolutionary mismatch where our brains still carry primitive settings, yet the environment has become extremely complex. High cognitive individuals are actually evolutionary pioneers. Their brains have adapted to the complexity of modern society, and solitude is their adaptation strategy. They don't need excessive external validation because they have their own internal operating system. Research shows that when they are alone, their default mode network DMN is significantly more active. This network is responsible for self-reflection, future planning, and creative thinking. For high cognitive individuals, solitude is not a punishment but a reward. A study by the University of Chicago proved that this group experiences a 32% higher sense of happiness when alone compared to when socializing. This is like giving the brain a VIP room to engage in deep thinking and construct complex psychological models. Being alone doesn't mean doing nothing. It is a highly structured cognitive activity. They might be undertaking mental time travel to simulate the future or reorganize their knowledge system. Neuroscience shows that this state activates alpha brainwaves, which are key indicators of creativity and breakthroughs. Many great inventions, from Einstein's theory of relativity to Beethoven's symphonies, are direct products of the solitude dividend. Furthermore, they are not antisocial. They are advocates for high-quality socializing. They deeply understand the 80-20 rule, that 80% of value comes from 20% of deep relationships. The Harvard Grant study, which tracked 268 students for 75 years, reached the shocking conclusion that the true predictor of happiness is not the quantity of relationships, but their quality. Intelligent people instinctively understand this, so they would rather spend 3 hours on one profound conversation than attend 3 superficial parties. They calculate emotional benefits and time costs very carefully, much like the difference between a Michelin-starred restaurant and a fast food joint. Ordinary people seek to be full, while high-cognitive individuals seek to eat well. Their social networks might be small but are incredibly deep, typically revolving around 50 to 100 people, yet every single relationship is of exceptionally high quality. Solitude is the very incubator of creativity. When we are alone, the default mode network and the executive control network engage in a special dialogue, allowing different brain regions to freely combine and create eureka moments. However, this is a delicate balance because solitude is not total isolation. Exceptional people always find the golden ratio between deep solitude and quality socializing. The most innovative ideas are often born in the transition zone between solitude and interaction, where solitude generates the raw idea and socializing helps validate and optimize it. Many even intentionally create controlled solitary environments, such as Bill Gates' Think Week or Steve Jobs' meditation habit. These are all high-level cognitive optimization strategies. However, modern society is systematically destroying the capacity for solitude through social media and a culture of constant connectivity. This is particularly dangerous for high cognitive individuals because their brains are more sensitive to information overload. Ironically, society often labels this sensitivity as a social disorder or eccentricity. We live in a culture that praises extroverts and punishes introverts, even though the capacity for solitude is closely linked to achievement. Neuroeconomists have discovered that the relationship between solitary time and income level follows a U-shaped curve. Having too little or too much solitude is not good, but a moderate amount of 2 to 4 hours a day is associated with the highest income levels. Worryingly, the education system and open-plan work environments are inadvertently punishing those who need stillness to achieve their peak performance. We need a cognitive revolution to realize that solitude is not loneliness. Loneliness is a subjective feeling of distress, while solitude is an objective behavioral choice. High cognitive individuals clearly understand this distinction. They enjoy solitude but do not necessarily enjoy loneliness. The ability to be alone is a sign of mental health and a wealthy soul. Those who can enjoy their time alone often have a richer inner world and a higher level of life satisfaction. So what can the average person learn from this strategy? First, calculate your social ROI by asking whether an activity brings true benefits or is merely a waste of time. Second, protect your private time by scheduling it into your calendar just like an important meeting. Finally, upgrade the quality of your solitude. Instead of scrolling through your phone, use that time to read, meditate, or think deeply. The profound lesson we can draw is that a person's true power lies not in the number of contacts in their phone, but in their ability to master their inner world when no one else is around. In an era where noise is glorified, we often mistakenly believe that standing alone is a sign of weakness, but in reality, solitude is the most refined filter for separating core values from the static. Optimize your own resources, because if you exhaust your energy trying to please everyone, you will have no strength left to build your own life. To apply this to your daily life, start practicing solitude discipline by dedicating at least 30 minutes each day to completely disconnecting from the internet. Instead of superficially consuming information, switch to producing thoughts such as writing in a journal or making long-term plans. Once you upgrade your internal operating system through stillness, you will find yourself calmer in the face of volatility and wiser in every decision. Don't fear being seen as a misfit. Fear having nothing of value to contribute when you do appear in a crowd. We live in an age of connection overload, yet a deficit of awareness. True advantage lies not in how many people you connect with, but in how deeply you can disconnect to see the true essence of things. The people who appear the loneliest are perhaps engaged in humanity's deepest dialogue with eternity. Do you prefer spending time at a crowded party or sitting alone reading a good book? Please leave a comment below to share your perspective, as every one of your opinions provides an interesting viewpoint for others to reference. If you found this video helpful, please hit the subscribe button to support the Incubator Fact channel and give us more motivation to continue producing great content. Thank you very much.